So Avatar: The Awakening of Roku. I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan and have kept up with the Chronicles of the Avatar book series. I've enjoyed most of the books in this series so far, but some of them are definitely better than others. This book is the 6th book in the series, but only the 2nd to focus on Avatar Roku, as well as being the 2nd to be written by Randy Ribay. Did this book live up to the rest of the series? Let's find out. Also, before we get into the review, full spoiler warning, I will be spoiling this novel pretty thoroughly. Also, at the time that I am recording this, I'm getting over a cold, so if my voice sounds a little hoarse or if I seem a little low energy, that's why. Without further ado, let's get into the good. So like in the previous novel, I do really like the relationship between Roku and Gyatso. You really do buy into their bond, the characters bounce off each other well, and they complement each other's personalities. This novel really makes you feel invested in their friendship, and it adds a lot of depth to both characters. I also really like the new character named Makittuq. She has an interesting personality, and is a good foil to Roku and Gyatso, and she's different from other companions to the Avatar that we've seen in previous Avatar content. And I also really like the setting of the North Pole, because it allows us to see a part of the Avatar universe that we haven't seen before, which is the Northern Water Tribe outside of Agnikella. It was cool to learn about how the Northern Water Tribe kind of developed before Aang's era. Let's move into the mixed. I feel that Ta Min's storyline is a pretty big mixed. I like that we get more of her character because she's a fun and layered character, and we didn't really get that much of her in the first Roku novel. However, the ways in which her storyline ties into the main storyline feel a little bit forced. I spent most of the novel wondering why we were spending so much time with Ta Min. Also, while I'm usually very complimentary of the voice performance by Nancy Wu in the audiobook version, I'm a little bit mixed on it here. I feel like she doesn't do as good enough job giving each character a distinct voice as she has in previous audiobooks. There's also a few editing errors. There's one in a chapter called Complicit that really stood out to me, where a character says the same line of dialogue twice. Lastly, let's move into the bad. Unfortunately, the central plotline of this novel is pretty weak. While I like the idea of a villain who uses poison, the plot itself lacks a sense of forwardness and direction. I also felt like the main antagonist here was pretty weak. Her motivation is generic, and she doesn't really have a lot of personality. Her overall plan is a little bit contrived, and it feels like it's trying to tie together too many plot threads. I also thought that Sozin's arc was really rushed and underdeveloped. We needed more scenes of his downfall and of his transition from weak to strong. His plotline doesn't really tie into the main storyline, like, at all. There's a scene about 3/4 of the way through the novel where he stands up to his father Taiso. It's kind of the culmination of his arc. However, I felt that that scene should have been the start of his arc, not the end of it. Also, it feels a little bit inconsistent with the pre-established lore regarding Roku and Sozin's friendship. With the way that Sozin treats Gyatso, it makes no sense that Roku would ask Sozin to be his best man at his wedding, and that they'd still be friends long into their adult years. Also, in typical Avatar fashion, there is a pretty big Deus Ex Machina at the end of this book. Gyatso is able to come up with a cure for the virus kind of out of nowhere, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially given the state of technology in the Avatar universe at that point. So overall, while this is not a terrible novel, I was pretty disappointed with Avatar: The Awakening of Roku. It has some good characters, but it really lacks a strong central plotline. I'm unfortunately going to have to give it a negative review. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on Avatar: The Awakening of Roku. What did you guys think about this book? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? How did it compare with other books in the Chronicles of the Avatar series? If you want to see more Avatar: The Last Airbender content, click this playlist right here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.